Hey everyone, welcome back. So in this video we are going to discuss about the design architecture of e-commerce systems like Amazon, Flipkart. So you can see a diagram on the screen. It seems quite complicated right now, but after watching this video you will have the enough understanding of how Amazon works. So let's start with the functional and non-functional requirements. So the very first functional requirement for our system would be search functionality. So user should be able to search products, and user will be searching products based on the name of product and the category of product. Let's say someone wants to buy protein product, so they can use category protein to filter all the products related to protein. The next functional requirement that our system will have is add remove items from cart. So let's say someone wants to buy 4-5 items together, so they'll simply collect all those items in a cart. You can consider this cart as a bag. So user will put all those items into the cart and they can buy products whenever they want. So this is about the second functional requirement. The next functional requirement that our system will have is order products. So after putting items to the cart, user will try to book or try to order those products. So in this order products, we will be taking care of concurrent booking, where multiple users will come and try to book the same product. So this is about the third functional requirement. And the next functional requirement that our system will have is view past orders. So it is obvious that user will be searching or user will be reviewing the products that they previously bought. So we should provide this functionality as well, through which user will be able to see their past orders. So this is pretty much for functional requirements. Now let's discuss about some of the non-functional requirements of our system. So low latency, high availability, strong consistency and high concurrency will be the non-functional requirements. In this system we will be having high availability and strong consistency, but according to the CAP theorem, a system cannot be highly available and strongly consistent at the same point of time. So how we can avoid this constraint? So in order to avoid this constraint, we will be making few services as highly available and few services as strongly consistent. So payment service and order service will be defined as strongly consistent, and services like search service and recommendation service will be highly available, because these services are the user facing services. So we will make those services as highly available, and latency would be very low for these user facing services, because these services will act as an interface to user, or we can say to front end. So the latency for these user facing services will be very low. Search service and recommendation services are the user facing services. So this is pretty much for non-functional requirements. And there's one more non-functional requirement, which is high concurrency. That means server should handle only one request at a time. So this is about the fourth non-functional requirement. Why high concurrency? Because this is a order booking system where multiple users will come and try to book the same product. So high concurrency matters a lot in this case. So this is pretty much for non-functional requirements and functional requirements. Now let's discuss about some of the services of our system. So first we will be having this user service. This user service will be responsible for managing the user's profile, and it will also store different addresses of user. It will also store the email address, phone number of user and the location of user. So this is about the first service. Second, we have this inbound service. Since Amazon is a multi-vendor website where multiple sellers will come together and will sell their products, so this inbound service is for sellers. Through this inbound service, all the sellers will sell their product or onboard their product to the Amazon site or the world of Amazon. So this is about the second service. Next we have search service. So using this search service, user will be able to see different products based on the name of product and the category of product. The next service would be cart service. So using this cart service, user will be able to add items to the cart or remove items from the cart. So this service will be responsible for that. The next service that our system will have is order service. So this order service will be responsible for placing an order, and it will also take care of concurrency. So this is about the fifth service of our system. Next we will be having this warehouse service. So this warehouse service will tell where the items are actually present, or we can say that this service will tell the current physical location of an item, or we can say in which warehouse the item is present. So this is about the sixth service. Next service that our system will have is historical order service. So using this service, user will be able to see their past orders or the orders that they previously made. So this is about the seventh service. And payment service will be responsible for making a payment for a particular order. So this is about the eighth service. Now there will be some more services in our system, that is recommendation service. So this service will be responsible for recommending products, different products to user based on their interest and based on their past orders. So this is about the ninth service. Next we will be having serviceability service. So this service will tell whether the item is deliverable to a particular location or a particular pin code. Let's say if item is not deliverable to a particular pin code, then this serviceability service will tell about this case. So this is about the one more service. Next we will be having inventory service. So this inventory service will be the source of truth. Let's say someone added 4-5 items to the cart. Now it might be the case that the products or item went out of stock. So this inventory service will be the source of truth, and before placing any order, this order service or any service will interact with the inventory service to check the availability of product. So this is pretty much for different services of our system. Now let's discuss the overall design architecture of Amazon. So let's start with the introduction of different components. So the boxes in pink color will be the user interfaces. You will be having this user homepage and user search page. These are the user interfaces of our system. And here we will be having load balancers. These load balancers are also reverse proxies, and they will also manage authentication and authorization mechanism. And here boxes present in red color will be different kind of services that our system will have, and here the boxes present in blue color will be different databases that we used for different services. So start with our architecture with the inbound service, how an item comes in the world of Amazon, or we can say how different sellers onboard their products and items to the Amazon. So using this inbound service, different sellers will onboard their product to Amazon, and this information will be sent to Kafka. Now there will be different search consumers on the other side of the Kafka queue who will listen to those events. Now in this case, search service will act as a search consumer and inventory service will act as a search consumer. Why? Because whenever a new item will be onboarded, this information will be sent to search service, and then this search service will store this data to Elasticsearch cluster. Now why we are sending this information or the onboarded items information to search service? It is because in a near future it might be the case that user will be searching for that product, and this information will also be sent to inventory service, because this inventory service will be the source of truth. It will have the real-time update of item. So we are sending this information to inventory service as well. Now where are we going to store data related to search service? So the search service is basically responsible for making a search. search for product and search for different category. So using this search service, we are enabling the search functionality for our system. That means user will be searching product using this search service. So it might be the case that user doesn't know the exact spelling of product that they want to buy. So we need fuzzy searching in our system. We also need auto completion functionality. Let's say someone wants to buy milk, so after typing MI, system should automatically suggest milk to user. So we need these 2-3 functionalities in our system: fuzzy searching and auto completion functionality. So Elasticsearch cluster provides us this, which is a NoSQL database. So for search service, we will be using this Elasticsearch cluster. Now the information or new onboarded items information will be sent to inventory service. You can identify this with the help of arrow. So you can see that the arrow is going towards inventory service. So we are storing this new onboarded items information to inventory service as well. Now which database we are going to use for this inventory service? Since the data that we are going to store in inventory service can be present in the form of tables, so for this inventory service we will be using this SQL database. You can see the SQL database over here. So for inventory service we will be using SQL database, and for search service we will be using this Elasticsearch cluster. Now you can see one more arrow, this arrow going towards Kafka queue. So what does that mean? So we'll see about this after some time. Now this search service will also interact with the serviceability service and inventory service. Why? It is because after searching, let's say you searched a particular product, so you would have seen in Amazon that the item that system returns to us after searching, it will comes with the availability tag, whether the item is present or not, it is currently in stock or out of stock. So for this, search service will interact with the inventory service, because this inventory service will be the source of truth. It will tell about the current stock of an item. So this search service will interact with the inventory service for the current stock update, and this search service will also interact with the serviceability service to check whether the item is serviceable or not in a particular pin code or user's location. So in order to find user's location, the search service will also interact with one more service, which is our user service. So here we will be having this user service. So let me just name it as user service. So here we will be having user service. This user service will tell the location or address of user. So this search service will interact with the user service for fetching user's delivery address, and then it will send this data to serviceability service to check whether the item is serviceable or not in a particular delivery address or particular pin code. And how this serviceability service checks whether the item is serviceable or not? So for this, serviceability service interacts with the warehouse service, and this warehouse service will tell in what all the warehouses the item is present. So this is what serviceability service does. Now let's say if item is serviceable, so this serviceability service will find all the available routes from warehouse to the user's location or user's address, and it will also find the time, how much time it is taking to go from source to destination. So for this, serviceability service is going to use Google Maps service. So this is the work of serviceability service, and this is how search service interacts with the inventory service, serviceability service and user service. Now let's discuss about some of the more important services of our system, which is cart service and order service. So this cart service is responsible for adding a product into the cart and removing product from the cart. So let's say user comes to this user search page, and searched for a particular product. So search service will get invoked. Now after searching a product, let's say user wants to buy product or user just want to add that item to the cart. So he will simply add the item to the cart, and the moment he will add the item to the cart, this cart service will get invoked. So this is the work of cart service. Using this cart service, user can add item to the cart, remove item to the cart. Now which database are we going to use for this cart service? So the data that we are going to store in cart will be frequently accessed. That means we need to store this data in a Redis cluster for faster retrieval, because we will be fetching this data very frequently, but the data that we stored in Redis cluster will not be persistent. So is it good to store data, cart service data, only in Redis cluster? Actually not. Let's try to understand this with the help of example. So let's say user added 4-5 items to the cart, and then he came back to the cart after, let's say, 4-5 months. So if we store data only in Redis, then we might lost the data. So it is very important to have the permanent copy of that data that we stored in the cart. So for this, we are going to use SQL database for cart service. We will also be managing Redis for cart service, but for permanent storage, we will be storing SQL database. Now why SQL database? Because the items that we are going to store in cart will be very structured. It will have the product name, product category, availability, stock, price. So we will be storing this data, and this data is going to be structured. So this is the reason we are going to use SQL database for cart service. So this is about the cart service of our system. Now you can see that there's an arrow going towards Kafka queue from cart service. So what is this arrow and what it represents? So we'll see this after some time. Now the next service that our system will have is order service. So this order service will be responsible for placing an order. Let's say someone added 4-5 items to the cart. Now he wants to buy those products, so he will simply click on buy, and this order service will get invoked. Now which database are we going to use for this order service? So we will be using this SQL database for order service, and we will also be managing Redis. Why? We will discuss this after some time. So first let's discuss why we are using SQL database here for order service. So in this order service or order functionality, we can have multiple tables. We can have customer table, we can have item table, and we will also be having order table. So we will be managing different tables. That means data is going to be very structured, and there will be lots of updates happening to this order service database for each order. At some point of time, order status will be created. At some point of time, order status will be delivered, and at some point of time, order status can be cancelled. So we will be having different updates for each order in this order service database. So we need to make sure that the updates are atomic and they can form a transaction, and we also need to make sure that there will be no partial updates, and MySQL database provides this out of the box, so we would leverage it here. So this is the reason we are going to use SQL database for order service. So we made a database choice for this order service. Now when a user will click on place order button, this order service will create an order, or we can say it will create a record for that particular order, and it will store this entry in SQL database and also in Redis cluster with the tag that order is created. And it will also store the order creation time, let's say 10 AM, and order expiration time, let's say 10:05 AM, to the Redis cluster. Why we are storing this information? We'll discuss this after some time. Now this order service will store this entry in SQL database and Redis cluster, and it will also invoke inventory service. Now why it is invoking inventory service? Because inventory service is going to be the source of truth. It will have the current stock updates. So this order service will lock the assignment in inventory service, or we can say it will lock the inventory. Basically we are going to use pessimistic lock here, so that user won't be able to read or write something. Now why we are doing this? Because it is a product booking system where multiple users will come and will try to book the same product. So let's say user 1 wants to buy a particular product. So after locking the assignment, user 2 will get to know that okay, this item has been sold out, or we can say some other user have bought this product. So this is the reason we lock the inventory and we lock the assignment. Basically we will reduce the inventory count by 1. Let's say there are only 2 items or 2 stock available for a particular product. So after locking the assignment or after locking the inventory, we will reduce the inventory count and the number of stock will be 1 now. So this is how it works, and this is how we lock the assignment and lock the inventory. Now this order service will also interact with the payment service. So this payment service will have some kind of payment gateway. Using this payment gateway, we will make the payment, and after completing the payment, order status will be placed. So this is about the order service and this is about the payment service. Now let's discuss some of the important cases which is related to payment service and order service. So the first case is related to payment success, when payment gets successful. So in this case, this payment service will send a callback event to order service and will send the information that payment has been successful. So this order service will mark an entry to the SQL database that order has been placed, and it will also remove the entry, this entry, from Redis cluster. So this is the first case when our payment gets successful. Now what if our payment gets failed? So in this case, this payment service again sends an callback event and will send this information to order service that payment has been failed. So in this case, this order service will mark the entry in SQL database that order has been cancelled, and it will also increment the inventory count by 1. Why? Because before placing an order, inventory count was 2, and after placing an order, inventory count went to 1 because we locked the assignment and we reduced the inventory count. But because of payment failure, user couldn't buy a product, so we will have to increment the inventory size so that other user will be able to see that product and other user will be able to buy that product. So this is the reason we will increment the inventory count again, and we will also delete this entry from Redis even the payment failed. So we will do this. Now there is one more case. Let's say user went to payment gateway button, payment gateway page, and then he closed the browser and then he did not come back. So in this case, payment service will not send any update or will not send any event to order service. So in this case, this Redis cluster will help, or we can say this entry will help us, and this is the reason we are storing this creation time and expiration time entry in Redis cluster. Now let's try to understand this with the help of example. So let's say user clicked on place order button, inventory count reduced by 1, and entry will be stored in SQL database with the tag that order is created, and it will also store the entry in Redis cluster that order is created, and we will store this order creation time and order expiration time. Now user went to payment gateway page, and because of some XYZ reason he just closed the browser and then he did not come back. So in this case, payment service will not send any update or will not send any event to order service. So order service will have no idea what happened later, and we reduced the inventory count but user did not buy the product. Let's say inventory count for a particular product was 1, and then we logged the assignment and reduced the inventory count. Now inventory count went to 0. Now let's say there's some new user came and he wants to buy the exactly same product. Now he won't be able to buy that product because inventory count is 0 right now, but the item is physically present in the warehouse. So it is obviously not a good thing. Now how are we going to solve this problem? So for this we will be taking help of Redis cluster. As we discussed that we stored creation time, order creation time and the expiration time of order in Redis. Now let's say till 10:05 there was no payment happened. So in this case entry will persist, entry will stay in the Redis cluster, because what we were doing, let's say if our payment gets successful and let's say if our payment gets failed, so in both the cases we were deleting the entry from Redis cluster, this entry from Redis cluster. But in this case, the case in which user went to payment gateway page and then he just closed the browser, so payment service will not send any update. So in this case entry will remain or entry will stay in the Redis cluster. So this order service will get to know that okay, entry is still in the Redis cluster. So this order service will identify that okay, user just closed the browser when he was on the payment gateway page, and this is the reason payment service did not send any callback event. So what this order service will do, it will simply increment the inventory count again, and it will also delete the entry from SQL database, and it will also delete the entry, this entry from Redis cluster. So this is the third case that can come while taking care of order service and payment service. Now here race conditions can occur between expiration time and payment success and expiration time and payment failure. So let's try to understand this with the help of example. So let's say first our payment gets successful, so payment gets successful and then expiration time comes. So what will happen in this case? So this is the most common case that happens most of the time. Let's say order is created at 10 a.m. So at this point of time order is created, and let's say at 10 a.m. 10:01 our order gets placed. So order gets placed, that means payment success, and then at 10:05 a.m. is our expiration time. So in this case, let's say our payment gets successful before expiration time. So in this case payment service will send a callback event to order service that okay, payment has been successful, and this order service will simply delete this entry from Redis cluster, and it will update the SQL database with the tag that order is placed. So this is the first case where payment gets successful before the expiration time. Now the next case is where expiration time comes before payment. So let's say order is created at 10 a.m. So here we have order created, and at 10:05 our order has to expire. So here we will be having expiration time, and at 10:07 our payment gets successful. So what will happen in this case? So at 10:05 this Redis cluster will tell that that the expiration time has come. So this Redis will send callback event to the order service that there was no payment and there is entry still in the Redis cluster. So this order service will get to know that order has not been placed yet. It can be any issue, it can be a payment issue or any issue. Then this order service will simply increment the inventory and will send the update in SQL database that order has been cancelled. So this order service will simply do this. Now at 10:05 this payment service will send a callback event to the order service that payment has been successful. So in this case this order service can do two things. We can simply refund that amount to user, and the other thing that we can do is we will simply create another record for order and we will generate a new order ID, and will simply store this entry in SQL database with the tag that order has been placed, and we will simply add this user's amount, the amount that user has sent for previous order, with this new order ID, and will place the order. So these are the couple of cases that can occur in our system while we will be taking care of concurrent booking. So yeah, this is pretty much for order service and payment service. Now you can see, as we discussed before, that there is arrow going towards Kafka queue from search service. There is arrow going towards Kafka queue from card service. There is arrow going towards Kafka queue from order service. So what does that mean and what it represents? So basically this data helps in recommendation system. Whatever user is searching, whatever user is putting into the cart, and whatever item user is buying. So all these information will be sent to Kafka using these services: search service, cart service, and order service. Now there will be Spark streaming on top of Kafka event, Kafka queue. So this Spark streaming will simply takes this data as an input, and using this data, this Spark streaming will generate the recommendation feed for user, and it will send this data to recommendation service. Now for recommendation service, we will be using Cassandra database. This recommendation system is not going to be that simple. It will be very vast. We will be using different ML algorithms to generate this recommendation feed for a particular user. What user is liking, what user is viewing, what user is adding to the cart, what user is buying. So it will grab all this information, and on the basis of this information we will perform different operations, and then we will generate a recommendation feed for user. So this is all for recommendation service. Now what is this historical order service, archival service here? So Amazon is a big e-commerce system, everyone knows. In a single day it takes about millions of orders from different users worldwide. So when we will scale our system for millions of user or billions of user, the SQL database that we are using for order service will not be able to take care of this amount of data. So this is the reason we are going to use Cassandra database, which is a NoSQL database, for this order service. Now how are we going to use this? So let's say first we need to understand what we are actually storing in this SQL database. So as we discussed that we will be storing order ID, order time, order creation time, user's address, basically information related to user, and we will also be storing different status of order. Let's say order is placed, order is created, order is cancelled, order is completed. So once the order is completed, we will simply store this data into Cassandra, because this order has been completed and this order is no longer in the consideration. So we will simply grab this data from SQL database and will send this data to Cassandra. So how we are going to do this? So for this we are going to use archival service. This archival service is nothing but a cron jobs that will simply fetch data or pull data from SQL database. Which data? Data related to completed bookings or completed orders. So if order is completed and order is no longer in the consideration, so this archival service will simply fetch this data and will send this data to Cassandra database. And which service will be manage this? So for this we will be having historical order service. So this is pretty much for Amazon system design. In the next video we will be discussing about the system design of Netflix, and I hope now you have enough understanding of this diagram, what it actually doing and how Amazon works. So this is all for this video. We'll see you in the next video. So bye bye, thanks, and show some love.